Do you have a pressure washer? It's not working, something's wrong with it, whether it's turning on but not holding pressure, or it just shuts off whenever you try to start it, or you're having trouble starting it. This is the video for you. I'm going to show you guys how to troubleshoot it, and I'm going to go through a bunch of things that could be wrong and show you exactly how to fix it. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If it's your first time here, welcome, of course, and for my long-time subscribers, you guys know the drill. Welcome back. All right, so today I'm going to be working on my pressure washer, and chances are you guys have a pressure washer and you're running into similar problems. Now, in this case, I have several things that I think are going wrong with my pressure washer, and this is going to help you. One of the issues that I have with it is that once I start it up, it runs for a little bit, it idles well, but once I turn off the choke and let it try to run, it just shuts off. It doesn't run for long. The other issue I have also is that the pressure doesn't build up well in the pump. So when I squeeze my hose, it's low pressure, then it pulses to high pressure and then low pressure, and it takes a long time for the engine to warm up and for the pressure to maintain. So I'm going to go through the scenarios that I think are wrong, and I'm going to show you guys exactly how to fix it. The cool thing about these pressure washers are they're very inexpensive to work on. So I'm going to talk to you about the parts and the things that you're going to need, and then we're going to jump into it. As usual, I'll leave links in the description for all the tools that I use, so you guys don't have to worry about it. There'll be links to wherever you can get it, and you guys can follow along easy peasy. Also, don't mind me if I'm sweating. It is hot here in Florida. So other than that, let's go ahead and let's start the process. First, I want to try and replicate what's going on with my pressure washer, so I'll kind of show you guys what's going on. As you can see, it starts, but when I turn on the throttle, it just shuts off. All right, so as you can see, there's a big problem here. It runs, but it just shuts off. No matter if I have the choke running, as long as I put it back to run, it always shuts off. Now, let me show you guys how to fix it and how easy it is. One of the most common problems with these pressure washers are the carburetors. Now, the carburetor is what regulates the flow of fuel to the engine, and it's located behind here. We're going to go ahead and service the carburetor. Now, in my case, I'm going to pull it apart and clean it, but guess what? They actually sell a kit that has a new carburetor, and it comes with a bunch of other stuff like filters and spark plugs, and it's only 16 bucks. So if you just want to go ahead and replace your carburetor, you can jump to the part where you see me reinstalling the carburetor and go from there. But if not, and you're like me and you want to pull it apart and see what it looks like, check it out. This is how you do it. The first thing you want to do is you want to shut off the fuel that's going to your engine, and then you're going to go ahead and remove the filter cover here. Here we have a filter. It's dirty, but it's not too bad. In any case, I'm going to go ahead and replace it when I put it back in. So we set this aside, and in here there are two 10mm bolts. You're going to go ahead and loosen. Take your time while you're doing this, because behind here there is the carburetor and there are some gaskets that tend to fall off. So just take your time and loosen these. I like to loosen them as much as I can first, and then finally take them out by hand. Once you're done loosening them, I like to put a little bit of pressure against this to kind of hold it in place so it doesn't all just fall out. Once you have those out, you can go ahead. I like to hold the carburetor there for a little bit and then remove the cover. And here's your carburetor. Now, there's a hose connected to this that you can go ahead and pull down. It was connected here, and you can go ahead and set, and then you can go ahead and set the filter box aside. Next, you want to go ahead and loosen the hose that's connected to your carburetor. There's a clamp that's on it that it's kind of like a pain in the butt, but you can go ahead and use a pair of needle nose pliers and remove the clamp. All right, once you have this clamp removed, you can go ahead and slide it back and just disconnect the hose from the carburetor. Notice here there's a gasket that's in the back. Sometimes this spacer falls out as well, but if not, you're going to have this gasket here that you're going to need to put back on once you're done. Now, all you need to do is pull on this hose and it should slide right off like that. All right, once you have your hose disconnected, now all that's left are these rods that are holding onto your carburetor. Now to take them off, you just have to kind of tip the carburetor a little bit forward and take your time and pull them off one by one. There goes the first one. The second one. And the third one. All right. Now that we have those out the way, we can go ahead, take our carburetor, set it aside, and let's work on it and get this thing cleaned up. All right, now that we have our carburetor here, the first thing we want to do is we want to loosen the bolt on the top. Mine was pretty loose. You can go ahead and use your socket. It's a 10mm. Go ahead and take the main bolt out, and then you want to separate the top of the carburetor, and you can see inside here we got a bunch of buildup inside there. It's pretty dirty. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we clean this out. So let's set this apart first. Then you want to go ahead and slide this pin out here. Again, you set it to the side. And then you're going to pull up on this as well. You set them aside. And you can pour out any gas that you have in there. Now look, inside here there is a valve down in here, as well as a valve behind here that we want to clean out. Usually when it gets clogged up, it gets clogged up inside here, or there's buildup inside here. In order to get to the valve down in here, you can actually use a small screwdriver and put it down inside there and twist it until it comes out. As you can see here, we have the two pieces, this piece and this piece that comes out. And what you want to do is you want to clean these very well. There's some little holes all around here that we want to get to. They're very small. I have some brushes here that I'm going to use to clean them out, as well as some carburetor cleaner, but that's what you want to do. So we'll set these aside. Next thing you want to do is you want to take this screw out. Take your time. It may be tight, but don't put too much pressure on it because you don't want to strip it out. Just remove this screw, set it aside, because we're going to go ahead and clean down inside this hole here as well. All right, so let's get at it. I got me some carb cleaner here. I'm just going to spray down the parts, and I'm going to go ahead and start with this first, and I'm going to use different size brushes to get down inside the hole and try and clean it out as best as I can. I'm going to try and spray these down, and I'm going to use one of the small tips for the carburetor brushes to just put inside the hole and work it back and forth. You want to get these as clean as possible. I mean, any little buildup in here that will stop the flow of gas can definitely cause this thing to clog up and not run smoothly. So we're going to go ahead and just clean this out as best as possible. Now that it's pretty much clean, I'm going to see if I can use the brushes here to work my way around to just clean this thing up as best as possible. Again, we want to make sure that we just have this thing super clean. Once we're satisfied, we can go ahead and set it to the side. Once it's clean, we go ahead, we set it to the side. Now, next up, we're going to be using this right here. We're going to be cleaning this out. Again, we're going to spray it down with some cleaner. I'll use one of the brushes to brush off any built-up oxidation or any built-up calcium that's maybe on it, and clean it up as best as possible. I don't know if you guys can see it, but these holes are pretty small. Again, guys, if you don't want to go through this whole process of cleaning your carburetor and all the pieces inside, you can always buy the actual just replacement for the carburetor. That way it will save you the trouble. But of course, I like doing it myself and cleaning this as best as possible. Once you have the valve clean, now you can go ahead and set it aside. And the next thing we're going to work on is cleaning the actual housing for the carburetor. The key here is just to see if there's any buildup or anything inside there and get as much off as possible. Any oxidation or any buildup is what you want to get rid of as best as possible. Once you have it clean, you can go ahead and set it aside. Next thing you want to do is you want to spray down your carburetor with carb cleaner again, especially down inside here. You want to go ahead and get it sprayed out. Wipe down. You want to clean off your carburetor. Now we want to go ahead and spray down our carburetor and use all our brushes to clean out all of the orifices. Now that everything is clean, you can go ahead and start putting it all back together. All right, now for the fun part. What you want to do is you want to go ahead and connect our carburetor first. What we want to do is connect the springs first. Since we have the most freedom in our carburetor, we can hook the small line on first. Then we can go ahead and put the bigger line in. And last but not least, we can go ahead and connect our last one. Now that we have it all connected, the next thing we want to do is connect our hose for our fuel line and slide back on the clamp. I'm not a big fan of these clamps here, so what I'm probably going to end up doing is changing it later for one of those pressure clamps. But if you guys can get this thing to work, all you want to do is slide it back on and then just clamp it over the pipe. Now that we have that in place, last but not least, we're going to go ahead and mount our carburetor back on. I'm going to try to go ahead and slide the bolts on through the gasket. I'm going to place the gasket on here like this, slide the bolts through from the underside like this, and then we're going to try and slide it through the carburetor and then connect the hose for the relief here. Once you have the hose plugged in, we're going to go ahead and take our gasket and slide it in and try to get our bolts to go through the gasket and onto the body of the pressure washer. This might take a little bit of finagling, but once you get it, once you catch it through one hole and they start to line up, it'll be pretty easy. All you got to do is tighten the bolts. Once you get the bolts started, all you got to do is tighten them up and get them nice and snug. You don't want to over tighten it, you just want it nice and snug. Now we can replace our air filter and put back on the cover for the air filter. And that's it. Now you've serviced your carburetor or replaced your carburetor depending on which route you took. And now we're going to go ahead and see if we can fire this thing up and see if it works. All right, now for the moment of truth. You service your carburetor. Let's see if this thing will start, hold the throttle, and maintain it for any period of time. And if you do enjoy the content, please guys, don't forget to like and share. It helps. Liking is the #1 thing you guys can do to help the channel, and it keeps me inspired to make more videos for you guys. All right, let's fire this thing up and see if we can get it running. There you go. It seems to be throttling okay with the choke. Let's go ahead and push it in for it to run. There you go. It seems to be running good. It's not surging too much. When I press my hose, it's running fine. All right. There you go. Cleaning the carburetor seemed to have done the trick in this case. The engine is running good. If this worked for you, good luck, and I'll see you in the next video because I'm sure you guys are going to get on to pressure washing. If it didn't help and you guys want to see how to service the pump because you're still having pressure issues with your pressure washer, stay tuned to the next part and I'll show you guys what's going on next. All right, if you guys still have a buildup of or a lack of buildup of pressure in your washer after you've replaced the carburetor, chances are your unloader valve is having problems. Either it's built up with gunk or it's seized up or the holes are clogged in there. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you guys how to remove your unloader valve and replace it. You can also clean it, but chances are if it's been sitting for a long time, it's easier to just install a new one, and that way you have it nice and fresh from the get-go. Now, the first thing you want to do is you want to remove this rubber cap here. You can use a pair of pliers, grip it, and just pull on it, and it should come right off like that. Once you have it removed, you're going to see your unloader valve. Now listen guys, a lot of times these things are seized up in here and stuck. So what I'm going to show you first is you want to remove the locking pin that's in here. Mine looks a little bit different than yours because my original one broke, but you should have one that's shaped like a U, and what you want to do is use a screwdriver and pull it out. Once you have it pulled out, you'll be able to access this valve. Now look, you want to try and hold on to it and maybe wiggle it a little bit and pull it out. Now if it's seized up in here and it won't come out, I'm going to show you a trick. What you want to do is you want to loosen this nut here, the small nut, loosen this big nut and slide the spring out. When you slide the spring out, you can put a set of washers over here and flip this big nut upside down and tighten it onto here with a socket. That will give you enough leverage as you're prying down to pull this thing loose. Okay, so if it's stuck, try that first to see if you can get it out. If you're lucky like me, you'll be able to just hold on to it, give it a wiggle a little bit and pull on it, and it should come right out. So if you notice on mine here, it has a bunch of buildup on here, and this thing was pretty rusted. It took me out. It wasn't too hard to get out, but usually these things are stuck and you want this pin to be able to move freely. So there are little holes in here that need to be cleaned out. I don't know if you can see them on here, but what you want to do is stick a brush in here. If you're going to attempt to clean it, use a little wire brush, clean these holes up using some carburetor cleaner and get it as clean as possible. Inside the hole in here, you're going to have a lot of buildup. What you can do again is use some carburetor cleaner in conjunction with maybe like a nylon brush or a towel and wipe out any gunk and debris that you find inside the hole. Now that everything is clean and clear, we can take our unloader valve, whether it's the new one or the one you cleaned up, and you want to go ahead and push it back in. And it should slide right in, nice and snug. Once you have it pushed in, you want to make sure that it's pushed in far enough that your locking pins will slide through and they'll be far back enough so that it slides down in front of this plate here to lock our unloader valve in place. Once you have your unloader valve inserted, you want to go ahead and slide your pin back in. Again, mine is different than yours, but it doesn't really matter. Once you have the pins completely installed, you can go ahead and replace your plastic cover. It just pushes on just to protect it. And that's it. Once that's done, we can fire up the pressure washer and let's test it and see if it works. All right guys, welcome back. That wasn't too bad. We went over the replacement or cleaning of your carburetor, your air filter, and your unloader valve. And that should solve most of the problems, if not all the problems that you have with your pressure washer. Obviously, we can change spark plugs and we can do engine work, but we're not going to get into that in this video. This one was just a simple service that you can do. All in, you'll probably end up spending $25, $30 if you buy all the parts brand new and get them done that way. But you can always clean them yourself if you're willing to put in a little extra work. Now, with all that said, let's go ahead and fire this thing up, see if it starts and see if we have good pressure in our hose. All right, as you can see, this pressure washer is running nice. It's not surging, and we have good pressure here right off the bat. Pretty good. Pressure washer is like back to new. All right, that wasn't too bad. All in all, might take you an hour and a half to do everything if you do a complete service, but it's definitely something that you can do by yourself. Don't be intimidated by it. If you don't want to clean it, you can buy the new parts. It's just a simple swap. And if you do that, your pressure washer will be back to new, and it will be just as if when you bought it in the first place. Now listen, if you guys enjoy this content and you found it helpful, don't forget, hit that like button. That's the best thing you can do for the channel. And if you're so inclined, hit the subscribe button to stay tuned to more DIY projects that I'm working on around the house. And if you do, thanks a lot. Again, I appreciate it. And until next time, I'll see you guys in the next video.